Welcome back, trailblazers. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about a tool that has completely transformed the way I plan and navigate my hikes, AllTrails Plus. As a Trailheads ambassador and the organizer of the Yakima Valley Trekkers, I'm out on the trails a lot. One of my favorite features of AllTrails Plus is the ability to edit and create my own maps. Conditions change, fallen trees, washed out sections, or even a last-minute reroute. And with AllTrails Plus, I can adjust my route on the fly and share it with others so everyone stays informed and safe. AllTrails Plus also gives you offline maps, wrong turn alerts, and 3D trail previews to help you stay on track and make the most of your adventure. And the best part, you can get 30% off an AllTrails Plus membership with my exclusive link in the episode show notes. So whether you're planning your next big trek or just looking for a new trail to explore, AllTrails Plus has you covered. Check it out and let's hit the trail. Welcome to Season 12 of the Hikes and Mics podcast. I'm your host, Ivan, and each week we're hitting the trail through conversations with extraordinary hikers from across the United States and beyond. Fall is one of those magical times to be outdoors. The air is crisp, the trails are lined with golden leaves, and every step feels like an invitation to slow down and soak in the season. This year, I've had the privilege of sitting down with hikers who bring the same richness to their stories. From through hikers reflecting on lessons learned, to everyday adventurers chasing larch season, and finding peace on quiet trails, their voices remind us that the outdoors isn't just about reaching summits. It's about connection, reflection, and discovery. So lace up your boots, grab your favorite warm drink for the trail, and get ready. Season 12 is here, and the conversations ahead are as colorful as the fall landscapes we love. In this inspiring episode, we're joined by Lestarya, founder of Fridie Outdoors, a groundbreaking app designed to make camping and outdoor skills accessible anytime, anywhere, even offline. What began as a way to heal after loss during her first hike in the Bay Area has evolved into a movement redefining how people connect with nature. Lestarya opens up about leaving her tech career to build a platform that empowers others to explore confidently, the lessons learned from her first camping trip, and her mission to make the outdoors more inclusive, comfortable, and community-driven. We also talk about the meaning behind the name Fridie, her favorite Oregon camping spots, and the joy of helping others find freedom and belonging under the open sky. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Lestarya. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mics podcast. I have a really exciting guest with me today. She is the founder of Fridie, the outdoor app that's making things super accessible for people that are just starting off on their outdoor and camping journey. Her name is Lestarya, and she's going to be sharing about her hiking journey as well as the journey of Fridie Outdoors. Thank you, Lestarya, for joining us on the podcast. We always like to start off by having our guests share a little bit about themselves and how they got started hiking.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on. I'm a big fan, and so just appreciate you. So yes, I will share that I am originally from Long Beach, California, as well as San Francisco. So definitely from California, but I'm currently in Portland, Oregon, which I call home. So I know we're close in proximity to each other. Growing up, I was not this let me go play in the dirt or climb trees. That just was not who I was. And so it's really interesting to see how that has changed for me over time. I'm sure we'll get into it. But fun fact, in addition to hiking and camping, which we'll talk about a lot, I also am a beach volleyball player. So, kind of mix it up a little.
Nice. And I got to ask, because I had about a 2-year stint in Astoria, Oregon, and I know Seaside had that big beach volleyball tournament. Did you ever get a chance to go over to the coast and check it out?
Oh, yeah. I just played this year.
No way.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, that was one of my favorite events of the year when I lived on the coast.
Oh, it's so much fun. So yeah, I figured we're definitely going to be talking a lot about hiking and camping. But really, for me, it's just about how do I get outside? How do I stay active? Because it just does wonders for me that just really helps in the home and work. So.
And I'm hoping if you can maybe share a bit about your own outdoor journey. Was there a first camping or hiking experience that really shaped your love for the outdoors?
Yes, and I'll say it's been multiple moments, growing up in Long Beach. I told you I was not the climbing of the trees, especially in the city. And for me, my relationship with the outdoors started after my parents had passed away. I was 8 years old when my dad passed away, and then I was 11 when my mom passed away. And so that's what really prompted where I had to, I moved with family in the Bay Area. And that's when I was introduced to hiking. So for me, hiking has always been about healing. And I still remember like that first hike that I went on, not having ever done it and having a hoodie on. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to like touch any trees. And I was like, oh, but at the same time, I was still intrigued. And so over the course of like that one hike going from, oh my gosh, the bugs in the trees, I ended that hike and I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I think I'll do this again. Then I just became that friend who was like, hey, let's go for a hike. Like most people say, let's go to the mall, yeah, right? Or let's go to a movie. And I became that friend who's like, hey, let's go for a hike. Let's go to this spot. Let's go to this spot. And just became a way of life for me and just something I do. Life doesn't revolve around it. It's just a very important cornerstone of how life works.
Yeah, and I'm curious because through the podcast, I've learned that, especially around the Bay Area, you don't have to go that far in order to reach some beautiful outdoor spaces. Are there any that kind of stick out in your mind that you think of fondly from your time there?
So there's always like the big spots that you hear of, right? There's Mount Tamalpais, which is known as the Sleeping Lady. There's Muir Woods that people definitely know about. But the place that I loved was Phoenix Lake. And Phoenix Lake was maybe 10, 15 minutes from my home. And you could make it as long of a hike or as short as a hike that you wanted. So you just go around the lake, or you could go up into the mountains and the hills. And what I loved about it was just that perfect water feature. It was that perfect accessibility from getting there. But then even when you're on the trail, being able to carry a conversation with my girlfriends, catching up, right? But then also be able to be like, ooh, that was kind of a workout, right? So that's what I loved about it. And again, for me, it's how does nature really complement other aspects of my life? And so I could work, go to school, and then on the weekends be like, oh, okay, let me get a hike in. And just be like an hour, 2 hours. And I could go home and do my homework or, do some other activities. So that's why even to this day, there's spots like that where it's a favorite for me because of how accessible it is. And it just gets the mind energized and refreshed.
I love that. And I feel like I had a similar outdoor journey where I didn't really grow up with it. I went fishing with my dad, but that was as outdoorsy as it was. And at least for me, when I first started out, it was a bit of a trial and error journey for me of what worked, what didn't. I still remember hiking in basketball shoes or skate shoes when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And what I really loved about the Fridie app is that it's making it accessible and really teaching people from the basics to advance on how to enjoy the outdoors. With your own personal journey, what kind of sparked the idea for Fridie Outdoors?
Yeah. And I'll say thanks for sharing that because I was hiking in my gym shoes, by the way. So, yeah, breaking down those barriers. So, what inspired Friday Outdoors? So, I shared with you how I got into hiking as a way to heal. But after years of hiking, sometimes those hiking trails would be at campgrounds. And that's when I would start noticing that people were camping and they seemed to really be enjoying it. And I didn't quite get it at that time. But I think every time I would do these hiking trails and see people looking so happy and at peace while camping with their tents and their campfires, it got me thinking that maybe one day I would do that too. And it was when I moved to Portland, Oregon. I graduated from UC Berkeley. I'd gotten my first job after college, and I was being really intentional, especially given just my upbringing, that I was like, I have to focus on work where I make an impact, but I also have to really pay attention to my own like health and well-being. And so every weekend I'd be getting out there and I was like, you know what? I like this hiking, but I'm going to go camping and I'm going to get that full overnight experience for the weekend, leave work on a Friday and go camping Friday night, Saturday, come back Sunday, right? And It was incredible. I brought multiple friends with me who also had not grown up camping, and we loved it. And I will tell you that there's a lot of preconceived notions, I think, about camping. It's like, why would you pay, a camp fee to go and sleep on the ground, right? I totally get it because I was like, yeah, like, why would people do that? I was like, why are people doing that? And when I started thinking about why are people doing that, I just said, you know what? I want to go find out. And so my friends and I, we did a lot of things right, but we also did some things where we didn't bring the right sleeping bag. And we also brought like a yoga mat. And so while I fell in love with camping the first time for many reasons, just being out there overnight, I also figured out that, oh, wait, like, I'm cold. I need a better sleeping bag. And oh, you know what? The ground isn't as comfortable as I thought it would be with this yoga mat. And so after that trip, I knew I was in love with camping. So I figured out, oh, I need a really good sleeping bag because for me, sleep, like I could tell that waking up out there is beautiful, but I just needed to kind of tweak my setup so that then I could get the best sleep. And that's what I did. And it really did make all the difference. So that was definitely my first camping trip out was the first time I fell in love with camping and was the start of getting into camping. Fast forward years of then learning what I needed to do. It was a journey and it took a lot of trial and error. And then there was just this one time after getting many people into camping where I was like, I keep seeing people who like not camping together, but I see them from afar where they're raising their phone up to the sky, looking for cell phone service so they can look up how to set up their tent, how to get their campfire going. The one time that people who are new to camping really need access to information, they can't get it because in a lot of these spaces, either cell service is really limited or there's none. And after seeing that helping people, like I'll never forget the families where the dad's mumbling this, the kid's like, hey, like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I'm that person, I'll go over and ask if they want help. And if they say yes, I'll totally help them, bring my own wood. But then there's just one time where I said, you know what? I come from the tech world. I can solve this. I know the learning journey because I've done it myself and I've gotten many people into it. So I've got the experience, the tech, and I was like, you know what? Let's go for it. So that was really the journey that started with my personal experience of camping, but then how it became, how do I help others get into camping who, didn't grow up doing it, or maybe they did. And some people say they just never really honed their skills.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned your career in tech because you had a successful career and you ultimately left your career in tech to focus on Fridie Outdoors full time. What was it like going from a big tech company to building something of your own?
It was a great experience because I'm always a fan of use what you have. And for me, I had such positive experiences with building products that were tech based. Before I worked in automotive, I worked in robotics, I worked on some of the first natural language processing, which is what powers a lot of the chat systems now. And so coming from that with a user experience background where I've literally studied what do people want? What do they need? How do we build it? And then also having product management experience. So that's the business piece of how do you build it, but then also how do you then scale it to more people? And I just said, you know what? Like I've got these skills. Let me solve this problem so that more people can get out there. And so it was like, let's take the leap. But that's me. I'm a big leap taker throughout my career. When you're always learning and kind of comfortable being uncomfortable, I feel like that's where the biggest journeys happen. It was a very positive experience for me. I'm sure it's terrifying for others, and I hear that a lot. They're like, I can't imagine. But the notes we get from people just kind of affirms that we're making the difference that I set out to.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I think, some of the most challenging phases of life can lead to some beautiful and productive experiences. I think it was Evel Knievel that said, it's always good to do something that makes you sweat in your boots a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
Now, the name Fridie is powerful and personal. Can you share the meaning behind it and how it guides your mission?
Yes. So Fridie stems from my African American side of the family. So I'm half Black, half Indonesian. And on my Fridie side of the family, I come from multiple generations of trailblazers, like truly many people who have paved the way. And so when I thought about how do we empower people to get out camping who might not otherwise, first off, like I'm gonna need help from the ancestors for this, right? But then I also wanted to give it real meaning by bringing in the family name of Fridie, which it just so happens people also will think, oh, Friday. I want to go camping on a Friday with Fridie. And I'm like, yes. So it happens to work out that in wanting to honor the ancestors and what a difference they've made, we're able to help others and their present and their future.
You've already mentioned, making camping skills accessible anywhere, anytime. And there's been multiple times where I forget how to, set up a tent or just do like things that, you don't do on a regular basis, that it's good to have a video or a visualization that shows you the steps. And like you said, when you go out in some of these outdoor spaces, you're in little to no cell phone signal, and it could be tough and it could be challenging to be out there for the first time or for the first several times. For you, developing this app and this company, what are some of the most overlooked or maybe underrated skills new campers should know?
There are many, but I'll just name three in no particular order. One is something I've experienced myself, but it turns out I'm not alone, and it's sleep. There's a lot of misconceptions about how soft and comfortable the ground will be. And so you'll say, oh, well, I just need to bring a yoga mat, but it's just not enough. And that's why there are sleeping pads that are designed for a camping scenario or to be outdoors, and it's designed for comfort. And so that's one thing I say, there's the 10 essentials. I say a sleeping pad is one of those for camping. And then another one is just getting cold, because a lot of times people are camping in the summer. And so it's going to be really nice, being in your shorts during the day, right? But because the temperatures change so much from morning to evening, it's really helpful to have layers so you can really adjust with the changes in temperature. And then the third that I'll say is staying hydrated. It's not the most exciting topic, but it is an essential to make sure that as we're active outdoors, we're continuing to stay hydrated. And so just making sure that where people are going camping has drinkable water. Sometimes websites will say it's potable water, but either they have it on site or just knowing that you need to bring your own water.
Love those tips. I wish I would have had them on my first camping experience. I don't know if I shared this on the podcast yet, but I'd done camping with my cross country team in high school, but it was always in the summer. And it was in, days where it was like 90, maybe 100 degrees. So even the nighttime temps were manageable. But my first time to the Canadian Rockies, we decided to camp the first night. And when we got there, beautiful day. It was like 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and didn't have a sleeping pad. We just brought our sleeping bags. And about 3:00 in the morning, me and my buddies are in this big tent, all wake up shivering. There's ice on our tent. It's completely cold. And then the next morning, we find out that it went down to 24 degrees. And we were just not prepared for that. And it was one of those things where we just didn't know. Like, we were so used to our own, summer camping experience that it makes sense when you go up further in elevation, things are going to get colder. And definitely that was the one and only time I did not use a sleeping pad in my camping experience.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure it brings up all sorts of emotions. I'm sure it was a beautiful camping trip, but also just that feeling of, oh my gosh, like you don't know what you don't know. And knowing that the sleeping pad's for comfort of sleep, but it's also meant to elevate you off the ground, which also keeps you warmer. These are things that you don't learn in school, and it's really hard to know if you didn't grow up doing these activities or you don't have a friend to really show you the ropes. And so that's really what's shaped Fridie Outdoors, and really everything we've done is about uncovering things that are really helpful to know and can make a difference between loving camping versus, oh, I tried it once and it just didn't work, right? I'm never going again. So we're going for the you love it and how do you build it into your lifestyle?
And I think the one thing that I really love about the app is that it works offline. Can you share a little bit on why that feature was important, especially in the development of it?
It was really important for us to have that offline feature up front because of all the observations I had had. I told you I have a user experience background, so it's just in my nature to observe. And while the beauty of camping is that you're disconnected, right? Like, you're like, oh, I'm out in the woods. I want to disconnect. One of the few times that you want access to information, you're going to need some way to access it. And so that's where I said, the beauty of camping is that you're disconnected, but it's also a challenge in that learning curve. And so that's why I knew that we needed to build that in. And it was also something that no other apps or companies have really focused on. There's so many amazing resources when you have internet access. There's a lot of amazing resources for like offline maps, but there wasn't anything that had really focused on the skill building piece. And that's where I saw an opportunity and have designed for.
You know, you have multiple videos and segments on how to cook, how to camp. What was your favorite segment to film?
Great question. They're all special in different ways. I would say the cooking was my most fun one because I've gotten this feedback. They were like, I feel like I can taste what you're cooking because you can just tell I'm having a good time. And that's what it is for me. There's the sleeping. So you need to know how to set up your tent and your sleeping pad, right? And have the sleeping bag. You need to have your layers, your water. But one thing I've just found is what brings people together during the camping trip. One of those is the food. And everything just tastes better even when you're camping. And so it was fun and helpful to be able to share with people how easy it is to make food, even when you don't have the convenience of home.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Are you dreaming of a Hawaii vacation but not sure where to start? Well, Hawaii's Best helps you plan an unforgettable trip with real travel tips, local insights, and responsible ways to experience the islands. From Maui to Kauai to the Big Island to Oahu, every episode gives you practical advice and tips to help you travel with aloha. You can listen to Hawaii's Best on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. And I think the sleeping portion is a huge part of having a great experience outdoors. But the food, I think, is right there with it because, at least for me, it's hard to find a decent backpacker meal. So if you can cook a nice campfire meal, that just seals the deal for your experience. And you know, another thing that I really love about Fridie Outdoors is it emphasizes joy, confidence, and freedom in nature, especially for people who might not always feel welcome in the outdoors. How do you see the platform breaking down those barriers?
Every aspect of Fridie Outdoors is designed for people to feel joy, to feel confidence, and to feel free to just be. Right. So by breaking down these knowledge barriers and making that information much more accessible, I mean, my family comes from a knowledge is power, right? And it is. So by breaking down that knowledge barrier, we're really giving people the knowledge that they need to go out and just experience the joy and happiness that comes from being out in these spaces, but also the confidence knowing that they are totally capable of doing this and that they either already know it or that they at least have access to what they need right at their fingertips. And then also just the freedom to be is about feeling that you can just be in the moment, be you as you are outdoors. And that goes into every aspect of how Fridie Outdoors is designed.
You know, for folks that are interested in learning and downloading the app, I'm an Android user and it was an easy download process. It's a beautiful app, but how can folks access Fridie Outdoors?
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, on Android, we're available. We're also available on iOS, and in both app stores, it's really a downloading, and then you can get into the app. We'll ask you some questions and then make sure that you have a real personalized curriculum for given like where you're at in your journey.
Yeah, I love the questionnaire that you first navigate through to kind of really personalize the experience. It's based on the feedback that you give it. It will promote videos and courses that, based on your level or experience, could help benefit your outdoor experience. So that was really great. I really recommend people to check it out, especially if they're getting just started in camping. The beauty of it is you can watch it at camp, you can watch it before camp to help you get prepared for that outdoor space.
Absolutely. And one thing we've always shared with people is as soon as you get that information you need in the moment, then tuck the phone away to really stay in the camping vibes, right? That's a really important one we always emphasize. And so it's been so fun to hear how people are using it and then be able to really have that experience and not be like, oh my gosh, like this is horrible. It's like, oh, wait, no, like I can actually get what I need. And then, oh, I actually can enjoy.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, one of your favorite workshops that you did, or one of the favorite segments that you did on the app, was the cooking segment, because one event that caught my attention was, I believe it was here in Washington, the Refuge Outdoor Festival. You actually led a camp cooking workshop and you were able to connect with people in the community. What was it like to do that in-person experience?
Huge fans of Refuge Outdoor Festival. Siobhan Powell is the founder of Golden Bricks Events. And we just have so much respect for everything that goes into making that festival happen, with hundreds of BIPOC folks who are at this campground that's reserved for the festival. And you can really kind of choose your own adventure. And so when I think about everyone being together in this time and in this place, being comfortable with not just the sleep, but also the food, is something that helps people get to have a little bit more of a glamorous, some people call it like glamping, but a little bit more glamorous experience with their camp food. And so I was like, you know what? Let's do a workshop where we help people learn how to use their camp stove, right? Because there's the little camp stoves that you use if you're backpacking, and that's where you can really just boil water, or you have like a bowl size that you can heat up, or just the burner. And those are great for backpacking. But what I knew could help with getting into campgrounds where you actually can have your car near you, or maybe you're hiking in just a short distance, I was like, the 2 burner stove is amazing. But the feedback we got was, like, what happens when I attach the propane or the fuel? Like, is it going to blow up? And it came up. And so I was like, let me do a workshop. And I didn't know if anyone would actually sign up for the workshop, but we've done it multiple years now. And there's always way more people than we anticipate who come to it. And more than half of people have never used a camp stove, or they say, hey, like I feel like I'm just nervous with it. And then by the end of the workshop, people are smiling. They're enjoying the food we made, but they're also like, okay, I can do this. Right. And when I see people leave with that, going from one level to the next level, like that's just why I always make sure to get to Refuge.
I love it. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, when I first started backpacking, I had to learn how to connect the isobutane canister to the little camp stove. And I was sure surprised that when I started threading it, that it started hissing at me. And I was like, oh, is this normal? And I had to back it out. And then it wasn't until I fully threaded it through where I was like, okay, that's just a normal thing that happens. But it could be very kind of jarring when you start hearing like gases escape and thinking like, oh, is this going to blow up?
Exactly. And how do you position it? And how do you turn it on? Once you get past that, like, okay, how do you dial it in? And it's just so beautiful to see that happen during the workshop. So we've done that in different spaces.
And yeah, you've been able to now get feedback not just online, but also in person at like Refuge Outdoor Festival. I know this is going to be a tough question, but is there a most surprising or affirming feedback that you received from someone using the app or even attending the workshop?
The notes that I've gotten, the feedback, it's the why for this work. One off the top of my head was a camper, first time camper. And she shared with me that we've given her a healthier way to manage her grief. And it was speaking to how powerful being out camping really has been and how transformative it has been. These days, I think there's a lot of people who are looking for ways to kind of feel better, to release energy, feel just happy. And so to basically provide camping as a way to get to that joy that we're all kind of looking to get to, just be like, hey, for one weekend, go be out in the woods. I promise you'll love it. And for them to come back and say those words, that to me was just, and I could share variations of that, but to me, it tells me that we've designed for specific folks at a specific point in their camping and outdoor journey, and that we're making a difference in that way.
And this one's going to be another tough question because there's so many great gems that you've been able to share. But, for someone that's nervous about starting on their first camping trip and getting into outdoor spaces, is there one piece of advice that you would share with them to kind of ease their nerves?
Great question. By asking that question, it means that there's a curiosity. And I always recommend that people just go find out, right? Because you won't know until you try it. And what does that start with? It starts with booking a campsite. And I think it's really easy to get stuck on the planning mode and go, oh, but now I gotta go do this. I gotta go research all the things. I'd say do a quick search of the closest campground to your home. Maybe you're like, oh, okay, I'm going an hour out, right? Whatever the campground it is, just book a night. Book 2 nights if you want. You can always go home early, but book 2 nights because it does take some time to really live into the nature vibes. And after that one weekend of just testing it out, bringing things that you have, then reflect on the experience. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a positive. For the folks who haven't had a good experience, I will say it usually comes back down to the sleeping or the feeling cold or some things, and just like, I don't know if I'm going to do that again. So just do it.
I've said this before. I think Portland, especially when it comes to the Pacific Northwest, is ideally situated for outdoor excursions. You can literally go in any direction and hit a beautiful spot to go camping, whether it's the coast, Mount Hood, the Columbia River Gorge. For you personally, what's one of your favorite, campsites, areas, or even trails that feels like home away from home?
There are a lot of spots, and I would say Cape Lookout is one of my favorites because I'm such a fan of the coast. I also think that there's something that feels very familiar about being at the coast. You also know that there's a beach town not too far away. The beautiful part about camping at the coast is that you have the campsites there and you get to have that vibe. But then you also know that just maybe 10, 15 minutes away is probably like a gas station or a little convenience store. But that totally just feels like home to me. It might be also, growing up in Long Beach by the ocean. I think, I don't focus on that, but I've gotten that comment where like, you seem to really like beach camping. And I realized, oh, I guess I do. So really Cape Lookout and any of the spots along the coast are beautiful, but there's just hundreds, especially here. I know you spent a lot of time here, a lot of waterfall spots as well. So we could go on and on, but that's just one.
You've been able to partner with groups like Washington State Parks, and you've been featured by REI and Adidas. What does collaboration mean for the future of outdoor access?
I am so appreciative for all of these collaborations because I do think that there's not just one company or one organization that's going to be able to pull people into camping and hiking and the outdoors, right? There isn't. It's going to be a combination of each and every organization and company doing what they can, many of whom have been on your podcast, right? Everyone's kind of pulling their weight to make sure that people are getting into these spaces who might not otherwise until they hear someone's story or they get an invite or whatnot. With the beauty of these collaborations is that it helps kind of pull together in a way that reaches people in the moments that they really need it. So with REI, it's like when you go for that sleeping bag and that tent, right? You need the gear, but you also need the skills. Or if you get the campsite, you also need a way to know what you're doing when you're out there, right?
And, you are constantly improving and developing the app. Looking forward, what's your dream for Fridie Outdoors in the next year or couple years?
My big dream is that every person, and particularly people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, feels like camping is for them. And even if they're not doing it, it's not out of fear. It's not out of not feeling part of it. It's more just like it really is a choice. But My big dream is that we've helped people who really wouldn't have tried it otherwise. And it's super ambitious, but I've already seen what's possible. And so we just want to keep going on that journey because if people can get over that first hurdle, the first few camping trips, and really find their way of camping and being out there, not someone else's definition, but really like their way, that's the goal.
I love that. Now, these last couple questions are questions we like to ask all our guests that come on the podcast. The first one is where we do a deep dive into our guest's Instagram feed and highlight a specific post or reel. The one that stood out to us was your photo on the Great Wall of China, which I think is a bucket list destination for a lot of us who enjoy the outdoor space and just history in general. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how did it connect to your love for the outdoors?
So I'll share, I was traveling on business and we've been going. And I was like, I want to go. Cause like you said, it's a bucket list to be able to go and do that. And to just go and see something that I'd only seen in pictures, but to be there and feel the energy, feel what it's like to see the wall just going through the mountains as it is, it's very powerful to be in that space. And so wasn't sure about, sharing that 'cause it's so different than the camping. But I also think that part of this work is showing how the outdoors exists in very different ways. And that was one that I just wanted to experience. And I knew people there. I have friends there. I have colleagues there. And so they're like, go for it. And I had a few take me out there. And so it was, yeah, it's still one of those top places I've been.
Oh, that's awesome. And, this next question is about regular routines. And I'm wondering for you, when it comes to camping, is there a regular routine that you do, whether it's at the end of the day, maybe after a hike? For a lot of us, it's eating and enjoying that favorite snack or drink. For others, it's a moment of zen. And then for a lot of us, it's that meal at the end of the day. Is there a regular customer routine that you like to do when you're out camping?
One on the fun note, it's the snacks for sure. Like I usually have like some kind of like trail mix that I've made or some fruit. So definitely part of the foodie snack club. But one thing I find myself doing when I'm driving home after hikes is reflecting on any aha moments I had on the trail, whether we were talking about serious things or we're talking about light, fun things. I just try to remember what were some things that got uncovered while we were hiking. Because, and I'm sure you know this, there are things that come out that wouldn't come out anywhere else. And I really try to be intentional about practicing presence and really setting intentions. And so having that time on the drive home to just reflect and remember it and then take action on it is a big part of my routine. I may not like always formalize it and say, okay, I'm thinking about it right now as I'm jamming out to the music playing, right? But I am thinking about it and going, that was an amazing trip. So
I love that. Now, this next one is about your pack list. And I'm wondering, when it comes to camping, is there a luxury item that you tend to pack that falls outside of the essentials?
my hammock, for sure. Yeah. And I was so nervous about hammocking when I first tried it because I was like, is it going to hold me up? But I've fallen asleep in hammock. I've done some reading in it. When I started Friday, I was like a very new mom. And I still remember when my daughter was a little one and growing up, she would love crawling into the hammock with me. And to this day, there's sometimes where we'll set up the hammock and she'll just want to like be in it for an hour and, just come up with all sorts of imagination in it. So it's not just a piece of gear, it's almost an oasis within the oasis. So that's always coming with us.
We're recording this at the beginning of fall, and there's still plenty of hiking and travel available for the rest of the year. Is there anything exciting on the horizon that we should look out for the remainder of 2025 or 2026?
We're continuing to collaborate with others. And so we have a series coming out with Eno hammocks that's all about how do we help people get out hammocking. Because one thing I've found is that some people are, ready for camping, And there's others who are like, you know what, maybe I just want to do a little day camping. And so just like starting out with something that you can go to a park, set up your hammock and just be in the nature vibes in that way is really beautiful. And then once they're ready for like that overnight, then they can get the full shebang and then obviously continue doing that. So I'm really excited about that, going to the end of the year really on a high note.
Oh, I love that. I'm looking forward to checking that out. That was it for the regular questions. We always like to finish off the podcast with the this or that questions. I'm going to give you 10 hiking related topics, and you just choose which one you prefer out of the two. You're more than welcome to say both or neither, and feel free to elaborate on your decision if you like. But when it comes to camping and hiking seasons, do you prefer the summer or the fall?
Summer.
And then this one's a tough one, especially being from the Pacific Northwest. Waterfalls or summits?
Waterfalls.
And then if you had to reach a summit, would you rather do switchbacks or go straight up?
Switchbacks. And that's because I really enjoy hiking with friends and we're usually conversing. So the switchbacks help be able to have a conversation and keep my breath going, keep breathing throughout the conversation. Otherwise, it's just straight up like, okay, let me come back. Give me a moment.
I agree with you. Now, this next one is the most controversial one, but trek poles or freehand?
Trek poles when they're absolutely needed. Otherwise, it really depends on what trail I'm doing. If I'm comfortable doing it, great. But if I do find it more challenging, then I'm bringing the poles.
And then this next one's about your footwear, trail runners or hiking boots?
Both? Can I say both? Because trail runners are so helpful for trail running, which I also do, and it just makes a huge difference. But hiking boots are really helpful for having that ankle support on much more challenging terrain where you want that. So I'm going to say both because it just really depends on the trail, the steepness of it, and also the duration. So yeah, I'll go with both.
Now, these next couple ones are the hardest ones, but when it comes to trail systems, do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
Loop trail, so that I can just go in a loop and not have to go out and then come back and whatnot. If I have to, there's waterfalls that are worth the out and back, but ideally it's a loop.
And the gorge is known for having both of these, but if you had to choose these trail conditions, would you choose muddy or rocky?
Muddy, because at least if I fall, it's just mud and you can always shower.
Right?
But I also have to say, I did say summer earlier, and that's because I also love like nice dry weather. So, so there's not too much mud then. So those two go in hand.
Now, the Pacific Northwest, especially Portland, is known for both of these in stunning fashion. But sunset hikes or sunrise hikes?
Sunset. But of course, I like to get back before dark because it's hard to see when it's actually night. And the great thing is you have a little bit of time from when sun sets to actually get back to your campsite or get back to your car before it becomes dark.
Especially our 10 o'clock at night summer sunsets. It's wild that we have that much light at 10 o'clock. Now, this one for me, I think is the hardest one, especially being from the Pacific Northwest, but spring wildflowers or fall colors?
And I know we're going into fall as we're having this conversation, but I love spring because it means that there's new and then also summer comes after spring.
And then you talked about the importance of hydration, especially when you're camping and hiking. With electrolytes being so readily available now in different forms, do you prefer taking your electrolytes in tablets or powdered drinks or even just like regular drinks?
I do tablets, and that's because, I do a lot of running, short distances, long distances, and so the tablets are just easier to take in motion.
That was it for the this or that questions. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. For folks that want to learn more about Fridie Outdoors, where are some of the places they can find you both on social media and online?
Thank you so much for this conversation. I really have been honored to be a part of it. And if people want to get more camping tips, it would be on Instagram. We're at Fridie Outdoors. And then our website is Fridie Outdoors, and it's spelled FRIDIE Outdoors. Those would be the two best ways to really reach out and see what we're doing.
And we'll be sure to put it in the episode show notes so people can check it out. Thank you once again for joining us on the podcast. I really look forward to what not just 2025 has to bring for you and Fridie Outdoors, but what the rest of the journey brings along. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Lestarya. We extend a heartfelt thanks to them for joining us on the podcast. Be sure to follow them on Instagram at Fridie Outdoors and by checking out the episode show notes. This episode of Hikes and Mics was produced by Jordan Smith. Be sure to follow her adventures on Instagram at jordan.journeys. New episodes will drop every Monday throughout the fall hiking season, with occasional Friday bonus episodes sprinkled in. To make sure you never miss a moment of these inspiring trail stories, hit the follow or subscribe button. Your support truly keeps this community growing. Don't forget to connect with us on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. That's where you'll find behind-the-scenes episode visuals, my own hiking adventures, and plenty more to keep the fall inspiration flowing. As we wrap up today's journey, remember, the trails may be covered in leaves, but the spirit of adventure is wide open. So tread those happy trails, breathe in that crisp autumn air, and keep exploring. Until next time, my fellow hikers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, ursaminooroutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, ursaminooroutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order.